broadcast by Studio Yaffa, thinking it was a live phone call. So that we needed to do more training on that. Sometimes we found that husbands would reply on behalf of their wives, which slightly could skew the results. The assistants had to be very persistent to get responses and had to be very organised. And the participation rate dropped over the weeks, which is normal to get in touch with people at home. So what were the results? Slide, please. Radio was the main source of information amongst the IDP and host community. 62% of those involved in the project listened to radio at least once a day. And by gender, 49% of men listened to the radio several times a day versus 30% of women. Slide, please. Radio, a traditional medium, is considered reliable and credible. Social media and word of mouth were considered to be sources of misinformation, with one individual saying, I don't use social media, but I've heard people say that it's just false information. Media. We saw the emergence of listener collectives and a spontaneous public sphere. So we had people saying, at the site, we would always listen to the radio together when it's time for the news. We listen to the radio with our wives and children, neighbours and friends. Listen to the radio who owns it. Some don't have radio and they come and listen with us. Slide, please. Radio plays a survival and resilience role. So we have some quotes here. It was thanks to the radio that the next day, the terrorists, that we fled our village to settle here. It was the radio that alerted us to the neighbouring terrorists came to kill people who were still there. The radio allows us to know where the jihadists are in relation to our people who were still there. The radio allows us to know where the jihadists are in relation to our village. The radio allows us to know if we can return to our villages or not. Slide, please. Radio is a catalyst for peaceful coexistence of IDs and hosts, stereotypes that identify IDPs in their own country. And these were media trustworthiness or information credibility, and also the topics and the formats that people wanted their information to be in. There was also inclusion. The COVID-19 awareness problem affecting the whole population, and particularly these communities, was also regularly mentioned by respondents as a significant problem. So how did the radio respond to listener feedback? Slide, please. Regarding media acts, they incorporated memorable jingles at the beginning of the programmes in order to attract people's attention and make them focus. They also made sure that broadcasts were in local languages to ensure inclusivity. Slide, please. I think we've gone back one, perhaps. The Studio Yaffa ensured that multiple formats in national languages were broadcast to promote media literacy. There was an appeal to broader audiences, increased accessibility, and reinforced message retention. Particularly, the sketches were very well received, and people would tell us that they'd recalled them and acted on the information there as well. So radio can trigger behavioural changes and can increase knowledge amongst individuals who can transfer it to relatives through discussion and deliberation. And in turn, this can lead to behaviour change at society level. There was also a broader range of topics involved towards the end of the study. Testimonies were broadcast to provide specific examples of IDPs who had succeeded in creating small businesses addressing respondents for relevant information on topics they considered important for their futures. With regard to inclusion, young people were systematically, regularly featured in whether accepted decision-making roles should prevail, for example, about household hygiene, social distancing, or leaving the home. This is frequently debated by Manu and Nafu, a woman, you can see them in this slide here, in the sketches, and represents the complex situation faced by households who are now headed by women who have had to flee alone after atrocities inflicted on male relatives. Traditional shaken by displacement, yet the new roles and responsibilities are considered extensively in programmes. We also recommended, and this was taken on board, to increase understanding and to improve message retention. So I think we could run the, not sure if we've done that slide or not, so we've done that slide. I think we've done that one, and we've done that one as well. So this is my last slide, so we've gone in a bit of circles here. But our recommendations are detailed on this slide, albeit somewhat small, but I think you may have a copy of it being sent to you. Radio as a medium should be used more in humanitarian situations. Radio enables the sharing of relevant and reliable information. It acted as a survival tool and provided space for exchange, solidarity and communion between IDPs and host communities. Radio proved effective and trusted in a context of uncertainty where rumours or uncertain truths proliferate. Talk shows, news bulletins and interactive or entertainment programmes, campaigns are needed to improve and reinforce understanding and counter misinformation about the pandemic and the vaccine. Involving affected communities in radio programmes and their production and their delivery increases awareness amongst IDPs and their commitment to act on the public health recommendations. And finally, the use of fictional characters, celebrities, or well-known personalities in broadcasts increased message retention amongst listeners. So that gives you an overview of the projects that we conducted during the pandemic, which showed and demonstrated how academics and radio stations can work together and with the community in a participatory manner to give the very community that we're targeting the information they want in a timely manner. So that concludes my presentation. Many thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Emma. And to conclude our presentations and before opening for questions and answers, I will now interview briefly our colleague Hyacinthe Sanou. Hyacinthe is the editor-in-chief of Studio Yafa that you've just heard about in Emma's study and presentation. Studio Yafa is the radio news program for youth developed by Fondation Hirondelle in Burkina Faso. Hyacinthe will share his experience with us. Hyacinthe is the former editor-in-chief of Radio Omega, the leading news radio station in Burkina Faso. He also co-created FasoCheck, a local media specialized in debunking fake news in Burkina Faso. And Hyacinthe was also named African Journalist of the Year by CNN as the CNN Multi-Choice 2015. So, Hyacinthe, can you please... Sorry, I will switch to French. Nous venons de voir avec la présentation de Emma, du Dr Haywood.
Déjà, on est parti, merci pour la parole et là avec le besoin d'information humanitaire. On a nous-mêmes fait le processus de renforcement de capacité, c'est l'information humanitaire, qui est différent du journalisme classique pour le personnel de Studio Yafa, de santé, d'éléments de questions utiles aussi sur la réponse humanitaire pour permettre aux personnes en détresse de pouvoir avoir les informations utiles par rapport à la prise en charge humanitaire, mais également des distractions, notamment où nous avons des artistes qui viennent faire donc du show, des prestations musicales, et nous avons également ce que nous avons appelé Bonne Arrivée, qui est un peu la rubrique que nous faisons, mettons en lumière les bons exemples d'accueil des populations de départ, les populations hautes. À côté de ce programme qui est hebdomadaire de 30 minutes, nous avons également développé une émission grand public sur la gestion de la réponse humanitaire à ce convoquant et des acteurs sur le terrain pour discuter de certains défis de la réponse et qui sont donc accueillis dans les populations. Et cela, naturellement, crée souvent quelques situations de conflit. Donc, nous lever cette question de cultiver la question de vivre ensemble et de travailler à cette question de cohésion sociale. À côté de ces 3 volets de notre programme humanitaire, nous avons formé 40 jeunes burkinabés aux zones, notamment au camp des personnes déplacées internes, un peu comment les traiter pour ce qui est de la réponse humanitaire de la réversion des acteurs humanitaires. Et bien sûr, Dr Wood a parlé de notre opération de distribution de tabac de radio solaire pour permettre aux populations de payer notre programme.
Dans ce contexte de crise humanitaire et sécuritaire que tu viens d'évoquer, que connaît aujourd'hui le Burkina Faso, comment la rédaction de Yafa fait-elle justement pour à la fois préserver son indépendance éditoriale, aussi pour réussir à faire ce travail sur le terrain, notamment, qu'est-ce que vous avez mis en place pour réussir à faire ça?
À travers notre réseau de radio partenaires, nous avons 36 radio partenaires qui sont répartis sur le territoire local, qui font ce travail-là, qui sont formés à des éléments.
On a vu dans l'étude du Dr Wood l'importance de la radio et comment la radio est un média qui crée particulièrement ce lien de confiance. Au-delà de ce lien de confiance que crée la radio, les médias digitaux aujourd'hui, sur les réseaux sociaux, comment vous utilisez les différents médias, à la fois avec des contenus radio, mais aussi avec des contenus digitaux pour réussir à toucher tous les publics que vous voulez toucher.
La radio, c'est le près d'un Burkinabé sur 10 aujourd'hui qui n'est plus dans sa zone habituelle d'habitation du fait de l'insécurité. Donc, le besoin d'information est accru, rien que pour avoir l'évolution de la situation, mais également pour avoir donc le lien le plus fort. Nous avons ces groupes, et également pour le camp de personnes déplacées internes, disponibles sur le numérique, et pour les toucher, donc pour avoir cette proximité, nous sommes obligés de les rejoindre un peu sur ces médias-là. Donc, nous avons, ça varie très vite, et notamment sur TikTok, qui est un média qui est de plus en plus. Les éléments qui ont le plus d'audience sont les vidéos, et donc nos vidéos battent des records d'audience. Ces médias sociaux nous adaptent à ces défis-là.
Dernière question avant d'ouvrir aux questions-réponses, puisque vous avez contribué à la création de ce média.
Alors, c'est inhérent à toutes les crises. Hein. Chaque crise est accompagnée de son lot de fake news, qui est de façon qui est une plateforme donc de journalistes et de blogueurs qui contre les fake news et qui font également de la sensibilisation sur comment réagir face à une information qui va sujet notre ennui. Les journalistes, c'est le chien de garde de la démocratie protégée dans ce public.
Thank you, Hyacinthe. Thank you very much. We will now open the floor for questions. I hope you have questions. I hope you found these